So today, my friends, we're going to be looking at the pros and cons of buying an investment property or a house to live in first, so that you guys can make the most informed decision based on your own circumstances about where you should be spending the hard-earned money that you've been saving initially. And for those of you who are new to the channel and maybe randomly stumbled across this, my name is Aaron, aka The Anxious Investor, and I've been buying, selling and holding properties for over 10 years now. And the sole purpose of this channel is to make sure that you guys can learn from my mistakes, as well as trying to make it enjoyable in the process. So with that, guys, let's rock and roll. So the first pro is that it's potentially easier to purchase. I have found buying residential properties to be a lot easier than buying an investment property, providing of course you're in work. Now, unlike investment properties where a lot of the time the income that they can produce is one of the most important factors, with residentials it's more about your deposit, your credit and of course your salary, which will then determine how much you can borrow from a bank or a lender when buying that house. The next pro is there's no voids. An obvious one here, guys, but this is something that is quite possible in investment properties. Third is you have more control and security. You can be as wacky and creative with your own home as possible. For example, guys, if you want black wallpaper in every single room and disco lights in the kitchen, my friends, then that entirely is your choice. You're also not at the mercy of a landlord as well, whose circumstances could change, which could impact you and your family's life. For example, if they wish to sell their portfolio for some reason unknown to you, you may potentially have to leave that property. So at least with the residential, you have that sense of security that as long as you don't start defaulting on your mortgages, which none of you should be doing, you're gonna be okay. Next up, we have no dead money. Now, I put that in brackets and speech marks because I have a different spin on this, as many of you OG subscribers of this channel know about. But at least you know that with a residential property, all your payments on a monthly basis are going towards that mortgage, clearing that debt over the period of your term, not to some landlord or some council. And you are essentially, over a long enough period of time, i.e. the length term of that mortgage, reducing the amount of debt on your name. The next pro is no capital gains. 99% of circumstances, you won't be paying CGT. Now, unlike flips or selling buy-to-lets many years down the road when they've grown in value, you will not pay CGT on disposing of your residential home. Which, let's be honest, guys, that's pretty cool, right? The next pro is rates. So rates essentially are always better for residential properties, so the interest across the term is generally less. Next up, deposits. For residential, you can often get away with much lower deposits. Stamp duty. For purchases under a certain amount, stamp duty is exempt on your first home, and for many, this is a brilliant bonus and a huge financial saving. Nobody likes stamp duty. I'll also just throw up some details on the current stance of the stamp duty, as it has been changing quite a bit over the last few years. Now, there are some additional perks here too, and I'm going to share that with you now as well. If your situation allows it to, you may be able to utilize the rent a room scheme, where you can essentially get up to £7,500 tax-free each year, yes, you heard that right, by renting out one of your rooms, which, let's be honest, is going to be massively game-changing, especially when it's tax-free too. Now, before you guys rush off and start buying residential properties, stick with me. The rest of this video may have you swaying your mind ever so slightly. Hey guys, I'm just interrupting this video just very quickly if you have made it this far, but you now have the opportunity to get a free NFT and learn about property investing for absolutely free. The link is in the description below. I will also put it in the comments as well. It's absolutely free to join up. So if that's of interest, guys, please do jump onto it. Now back to the video. And what I want to do is just give you a couple of cons as well in relation to buying a residential property. First is around your deposit, i.e. the equity in that house. It's doing nothing. Now, I'm speaking as an investor here, but for me, the goal is always to make my money work for me. If I have £50,000 as a deposit in a residential and I'm paying into that mortgage monthly without that property actually paying me back, to me, that doesn't sit right. I would much rather prefer to utilize that £50,000 to bring in some income and then maybe use that cash to maybe rent somewhere else. But that, my friends, is a video for another day. In fact, I've already done a video on that, so if you're interested, please do check that out, of course, after this video. The next is flexibility. A home purchase is going to be one of the biggest and most expensive financial decisions you will ever make. In fact, not just financially, it's a huge life decision. But once you buy that house, you're somewhat almost tied down to that particular area, the style of the house, to some degree. Now, of course, we can all sell and move elsewhere, but let's be honest, guys, moving home, if you've ever done it, it's very stressful. And selling houses can take time too. Obviously at the minute, yes, I know the market is bonkers and you'll probably sell it within a few minutes. However, the conveyance inside, the chains and all that stuff that comes with it, you're looking at on an average 3 to 4 months, and that's if everything goes well. Next up we have expense. It's gonna cost you to maintain your house. If the boiler breaks, that's on you. If the electrics go, that's on you. You need to repaint the house perhaps. This again is an expense that you need to put back into the house. Now, of course, for many, this isn't seen as a problem. But when you rent, guess what, guys? You haven't got to worry about that kind of stuff. Now, what I'm going to do is leave that list there just for now and move on to the investment properties pros and cons as well. So starting with the first pro, you earn money from it. Now, unlike a residential, an investment property is going to pay you, unless of course you do the rent to room scheme. So if you're comfortable living where you currently are perhaps, I think that you may just be better off increasing your monthly cash flow, for example, for let's say the next few years, then an investment property may trump a residential as your first property purchase. Next up we have, you can invest with a low salary. Now, contrary to popular belief, you can buy buy-to-lets with low or no minimum salaries, providing of course you have things like good credit score and of course that deposit. So this means that, let's imagine you have £11,000 annual salary. You could buy a buy-to-let as an investment that pays you monthly and of course grows with capital appreciation over the years. And it's going to be much easier than buying a residential, because a residential lender would likely look at your salary and maybe give you a mortgage of, I don't know, £40,000 or £50,000 as they deem your salary to be quite low. So think about that, guys. Next up, we have flexibility of location. You can buy an investment property anywhere and you don't even have to want to live in that area yourself. After that, we have strategies. You aren't just limited to one type of investment property strategy either. You can do service accommodation. You can do HMOs. Maybe you just want to stick to buy-to-lets as an investment property, making it easier to make money from property in different ways, and i.e. giving you more options. Next up, your money's working for you. The £50,000, let's use that as an example, that you may throw into a buy-to-let is giving you a monthly return, unlike a residential deposit, which just kind of sits there until you pay that mortgage off or refinance. And also your mortgage is being covered by a tenant. If the rental coverage is done right, you should also have money left over each month after all your other expenses like insurances, for example, giving you that extra net cash flow. Now, my friends, I must say it's not all pros in this game either. So I'm going to jump into some cons as well, because I don't want to sound too biased. The first is you need more of a deposit. In most circumstances, you're going to need, let's say, 25% deposit, and that's without the fees, as opposed to deposits for residential properties sometimes being as low as 5%. Next up, we have voids. Voids are common, and one void a year will completely destroy that ROI or yield that you may have expected. So that's something to note as well, my friends. Next up, we have responsibilities. You are now responsible for another person, family, or maybe a group of individuals when you have investment properties. Guys, this is crucial and should not be taken lightly. So please, please, please be a good landlord. Now, moving on from the last point, you have to be on top of your maintenance. If you watch this channel, guys, please don't be a slum landlord. We already get a bad rep for no reason, and maintain your properties properly. But this is an added cost that you need to account for, and of course, in my eyes, put a contingency aside for each and every month. Taxes. Now, you will have to get used to doing your taxes or paying an accountant for that pleasure each year as well. So that's another thing to be wary of. Now, my friends, I could probably reel off another dozen just sitting here talking to this camera. And if I have missed any and you think maybe people can benefit from that, please do include that in the comments down below as well, guys. I'm not an expert and you guys probably have your own pros and cons as well. And I'm really looking forward to hearing those, because whether you should buy a property to live in or buy an investment one first, the truth of the matter is solely down to you. What are your goals, aspirations, current situation like, or maybe your short-term future circumstances looking like? Have a clear picture of these and then make a decision that best suits yourself. And with that, my good friends, I'm going to close the video there. And if you managed to stick around until this part of this video, then I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your day when you guys could have been doing anything, but you chose to spend a few moments with me, and that makes you pretty awesome. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching.